The camera fades in on a serene beach at sunset. Emma, 27, a primary education student, gazes pensively at the horizon as the sound of waves crashing fills the air. Beside her, Sophia, 28, her wife, sits, lost in thought. The story begins with the deep emotional conflict that arises when two people in love face an unexpected challenge in their journey toward parenthood. The couple's dream of starting a family is put to the test, and Emma is left wondering if their love can overcome the barriers they never anticipated. Copenhagen, the city of canals, vibrant nightlife, and endless charm. Emma, 27, a primary education student, never expected to meet someone who would change her life at a party. She'd been to countless gatherings before, surrounded by friends, laughing and dancing. But this time, something was different. She noticed Sophia across the room, her sharp eyes scanning the crowd with a quiet intensity. They locked eyes for a split second, and that was enough. Something clicked. Sophia, 28, had always been independent and strong, but there was a vulnerability in her gaze that intrigued Emma. After a few moments of awkward glances, Emma approached her. The conversation started with a simple, "Hey," but soon it was like they had known each other forever. They spoke about everything from books to travel dreams, to their struggles with family expectations and what they wanted out of life. There was no judgment, no pretense, just a genuine connection. They laughed, shared stories, and before long the party faded away. It was as if time had stopped just for them. As the night wore on, they found themselves on the balcony, the Copenhagen skyline stretching out in front of them. Emma could feel the chemistry, the undeniable pull between them. But there was something more, something deeper. They didn't just get along, they understood each other. And in a city as big as Copenhagen, in a world full of fleeting connections, Emma knew something special had begun. Sophia, too, felt it. She had always been careful with her heart, never wanting to let anyone in too close. But with Emma, it felt different, safe, effortless, and real. It was the beginning of something neither of them had expected, but both desperately needed. Little did they know this moment would shape their lives in ways they couldn't yet imagine. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, Emma and Sophia's relationship deepened. What started as a chance meeting at a party quickly became something far more profound. They discovered they were more than just compatible. They were soulmates. Their connection was so deep, it felt like the universe had brought them together for a reason. They supported each other in ways neither had experienced before. Emma cheered Sophia on as she took on a new career challenge, and Sophia, in turn, was Emma's biggest fan as she navigated the rigorous demands of her education. Their dates were simple but meaningful. They spent evenings cooking together, talking about their hopes for the future, their shared dreams of building a life filled with love and understanding. Emma loved hearing about Sophia's passion for social justice, her drive to make a difference in the world. And Sophia was captivated by Emma's warmth, her genuine kindness, and her unwavering commitment to her students. They shared secrets, fears, and aspirations. There were moments of silence between them, but they weren't uncomfortable. They spoke volumes just by being in each other's presence. Emma often found herself imagining a future with Sophia, one where they raised children together, traveled the world, and built a home that reflected their love and commitment. There was no question in her mind that Sophia was the one she wanted to spend the rest of her life with. But of course, love isn't always simple. Every relationship has its challenges, and even though Emma and Sophia's connection was undeniable, they both had their own insecurities and fears. Yet, these very vulnerabilities brought them closer, making their bond even stronger. It was a love that wasn't just about the good times, but also about weathering the storms together. And when they faced their first real challenge, an unexpected disagreement, there was no question about whether they would overcome it. They would, because they trusted each other, and they were in this together. The beach was quiet that evening, with the soft glow of the sunset painting the sky in hues of pink and orange. Emma had been planning this moment for weeks. She'd chosen the spot carefully, somewhere that felt intimate, yet open to the world. A secluded part of the beach, just the two of them, a gentle breeze in the air. It was the perfect place to ask the most important question of her life. Sophia had no idea what was coming. They had spent the day walking along the beach, talking about everything and nothing, just enjoying each other's company. It was peaceful, easy. But then, as the sun began to dip below the horizon, Emma turned to Sophia, her heart pounding in her chest. "Sophia," Emma began, her voice soft but steady, "there's something I need to ask you." Sophia looked at her, intrigued, her heart already racing. Emma took a deep breath, reached into her pocket, and pulled out a small velvet box. The world seemed to stand still as she opened it, revealing a simple, elegant ring. "Sophia, will you marry me?" Emma asked, her eyes searching Sophia's face for a reaction. Tears welled up in Sophia's eyes as she looked at Emma, completely overcome with emotion. She didn't speak right away. She didn't need to. Her answer was in the way she held Emma's gaze, in the way she pulled her close, in the way her lips met Emma's in a kiss that sealed their future together. In that moment, they both knew that everything had changed. They were no longer just two people in love. They were a family now, and nothing, not even the world's toughest challenges, could tear them apart. Their wedding was everything they had dreamed of, intimate, joyful, and full of love. As they celebrated their union, Emma and Sophia couldn't help but look ahead to the next chapter of their lives. They wanted children, a family of their own, a home filled with laughter, chaos, and unconditional love. They began to discuss their plans, imagining the future they would create. Emma envisioned a small, cozy home with a big backyard, a place where their kids could run and play. Sophia imagined the same, a space where they could nurture their children's dreams, guide them, and show them the world from a perspective of love and kindness. But as much as they dreamed, they knew the journey to parenthood wasn't going to be easy. They'd have to navigate the complexities of IVF and sperm banks. But neither of them was deterred. They had each other, and together, they could face anything. At first, everything felt possible. They researched IVF options, talked to doctors, and explored different pathways to starting a family. Emma felt hopeful, eager to bring their dream to life. Sophia, too, was excited, but there were concerns beneath her enthusiasm. She didn't speak about them at first, but Emma could sense that something was off. One evening, after a long discussion about their plans, Sophia hesitated. "Emma, I need to tell you something," she said, her voice wavering. "I'm not sure I'm comfortable with the idea of using sperm from a traditional sperm bank." Emma was taken aback. "What do you mean?" "What's wrong with that?" Sophia's voice faltered. "I just can't shake the feeling that it's not right. Using man sperm. It feels unnatural to me. I know it sounds irrational, but I can't help it." Emma's heart sank. She had imagined this moment differently, had pictured them both excited and on the same page. But now, she felt blindsided. She didn't know how to react, what to say. The woman she loved, the person she'd chosen to share her life with, had just voiced something that felt like a complete disconnect from her own vision of their future. The tension that followed Sophia's revelation grew between them like a dark cloud. Emma tried to understand, but the more she listened to Sophia's concerns, the more frustrated she became. To Emma, this was about starting a family, fulfilling a dream they had both shared. To Sophia, it was about something deeper, something she struggled to put into words. Emma tried to be patient, but the truth was, she didn't fully understand Sophia's reluctance. They had talked about having kids for so long, shared dreams of parenthood, and now everything was suddenly up in the air. The emotional disconnect felt like a heavy weight. Emma found herself asking, "Why does this feel like such a huge barrier? It's just sperm." But Sophia's response wasn't as simple. "It's not just sperm, Emma. It's about who that sperm comes from. It's about what that represents, and I don't feel comfortable with it." Every conversation about IVF became a battleground. Emma would try to reason with Sophia, pointing out the logic, the science behind it. But Sophia wasn't swayed. "It's not about logic, Emma. It's about what feels right." They found themselves stuck in an emotional tug-of-war. Emma felt helpless. She couldn't understand why this was such a big issue for Sophia, why the dream of having children together seemed to be slipping away. Sophia, on the other hand, felt trapped in her own convictions, unable to explain the deep-rooted feelings that made this such a difficult decision for her. It was becoming clear. Their journey to parenthood wouldn't be as simple as they had hoped. Days passed, and the weight of the conflict between Emma and Sophia grew heavier. Emma would lie awake at night, replaying the arguments over and over in her mind. Why couldn't Sophia just let go of this one thing? Why was it so hard to find a solution that worked for both of them? Emma had always prided herself on being open-minded, adaptable. But this was something else. This wasn't about compromises. It felt like a complete disconnect, a fundamental difference in what they wanted from life. Sophia, too, struggled. She couldn't explain why this issue felt so monumental. She wanted children, wanted a family just as much as Emma did. But the thought of using sperm from a stranger, someone who didn't align with their values, felt wrong. It wasn't about Emma or their love. It was about something deep inside her that she couldn't reconcile. The more they tried to talk, the more they drifted apart emotionally. Emma felt isolated, unsure of how to bridge the gap between them. She started to doubt if they could ever find a way forward. Could their relationship survive this? Could their dreams of starting a family be realized if they couldn't even agree on the first step? And yet, despite the emotional distance, neither of them wanted to walk away. They loved each other deeply. But love wasn't enough to solve this problem. Emma wasn't sure what to do, but she knew one thing for certain. She couldn't lose Sophia. Not over something like this. After weeks of intense discussions, arguments, and tears, Emma and Sophia began to feel the emotional toll of their dilemma. Their dream of becoming parents together seemed to be slipping through their fingers. Emma, frustrated but determined, decided to take matters into her own hands. She began researching other alternatives, ways they could still have a child together without using traditional sperm banks. Could they find a donor who aligned more with their values? Was there another path that wouldn't cause so much friction in their relationship? Sophia was hesitant at first. She had never considered anything outside of the standard IVF process, but seeing how much this meant to Emma, she agreed to explore other options. The journey wasn't easy, and they quickly realized how many obstacles stood in their way. From finding a suitable donor to navigating the legalities of sperm donation, every step was more complicated than they had anticipated. But as they went through the process together, there was something comforting about the shared goal, something that made them feel closer again. They found themselves visiting clinics, speaking to counselors, and exploring every possibility. But even with all these options, doubts crept in. Was it worth all this effort? Would they still face the same issues with a different donor? Emma often found herself questioning whether their relationship could truly survive this ongoing tension, and whether their dream of parenthood would ever become a reality. But Sophia, ever the pragmatist, started to see things from a new perspective. She realized that what mattered most wasn't where the sperm came from, but who would raise the child. She and Emma, together, could give their child the love, stability, and care that every child deserved. Slowly, the walls that had built up between them started to crumble, and they began to find a way forward. In the end, they didn't find all the answers right away, but they learned something vital. The journey to parenthood was never going to be perfect, and it was never going to be easy. But as long as they faced it together, they could navigate any obstacle that came their way. Emma and Sophia's relationship had reached a breaking point. Despite all the efforts to compromise and find common ground, they still seemed to be at odds. The emotional strain of trying to reconcile their dreams with their reality was taking its toll. Emma began to feel like she was losing herself in the process, like the relationship she had fought so hard to build with Sophia was now slipping away. Sophia, too, was feeling the weight of the situation. She could see how much Emma was hurting, how much Emma wanted this dream to come true. But every time they spoke about it, it felt like they were just going around in circles. There was no resolution, no clear way forward. It seemed as if no matter what they tried, they couldn't reconcile their differing views on parenthood. One evening, after a particularly emotional argument, Emma decided to take a step back. She spent the night alone, reflecting on everything, on her dreams of starting a family, on her love for Sophia, and on what was truly important. Was having a biological child the only way to make their family feel complete? Or was it more about the bond they shared and the love they could offer a child regardless of how they came into the world? Sophia, too, had a moment of clarity. She realized that her fears and insecurities had been clouding her judgment. She was afraid of the unknown, afraid of the implications of using sperm from someone else. But in that quiet moment, she came to understand that love was what would define their family, not biology, not sperm donors, but the unwavering commitment they had to each other and to the child they would raise together. When they finally came together the next morning, there was a shift between them. The tension that had been building for so long seemed to dissipate, replaced by a new sense of understanding. They weren't perfect, and their path to parenthood wasn't clear, but they were willing to face whatever came next, together. With their newfound clarity, Emma and Sophia made the decision to move forward, despite the challenges that still lay ahead. They realized that parenthood wasn't going to be a smooth, linear journey. It was going to be messy, complicated, and full of unexpected turns. But it was their journey, and they would navigate it with love, patience, and determination. They sat down together and began to plan. They talked about their options, whether to pursue adoption, find a more suitable sperm donor, or even consider surrogacy. The idea of adoption in particular resonated deeply with both of them. They realized that their child didn't need to come from them biologically to be loved. What mattered was the family they would build, the home they would create, and the life they would share. The decision wasn't easy, but it was made with a sense of peace. Emma and Sophia both knew there would be challenges ahead. They knew they would face opposition, societal pressures, and possibly even doubts from their own families. But none of that mattered. They were a team, and together they could face anything. As Emma and Sophia continued on their journey, they were filled with hope for the future. Their path to parenthood was still uncertain, but their love for each other was undeniable. They had faced their greatest challenge yet, and together they had found a way through it. Now, more than ever, they were committed to building a life filled with love, joy, and the family they had always dreamed of. Though they didn't know what the future would hold, Emma and Sophia were ready to face it head-on, hand in hand. Whether it was through adoption, IVF, or some other path, they were determined to build the family they had always dreamed of, a family rooted in love, support, and the belief that anything was possible. As they looked to the future, Emma and Sophia knew that their journey was far from over. There would be obstacles, doubts, and challenges along the way, but as long as they had each other, they would always have a reason to keep moving forward. Together, they were unstoppable. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to my channel for more heartfelt stories. Your support means the world to me.